they're nonsensical words, but there is actually a little bit of sense. He's like, well, it's this and this. And it's like, but that's...
Oh, shit, that makes sense. Hello, 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 and welcome to Well Shit. It really is that simple. I'm Claire.
And I'm Serena. On this podcast, we help you to understand about your 12 universal needs, why they are currently not being well met,
how to meet them in ways that work for you, and how to consistently do so in quick, easy, and simple ways that fit seamlessly into your life.
We'll also help you to understand how doing so will have a positive ripple effect in literally every area of your life.
If you like what you hear, come and join the conversation in our Facebook group.
And enjoy the show.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, everyone.
So how are we doing?
We're doing good today.
Yeah?
We had a little needs nudge. Every day we post a needs nudge on our universal needs group. And it's also...
Not every day, every week.
Every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday. Yes.
Yes, I forgot the Wednesday.
You might have said the Wednesday. I just heard the day bit.
I know. So. I think I just said day. It's Wednesday here.
Unless it's December, in which case we do it every day in December.
That is true. And if you're listening to this right now, it's February?
February, yeah.
So check it out. You can use the calendar all year long, but the dates may not line up. But every Wednesday, we post in our Universal Needs Facebook group, as well as our Nourish Your Needs community, a little needs nudge, which is just something that you can take a second or two, or if you have a minute or two, or if you have an hour or two, just a little reminder of something that you can do that could help meet your needs and make you feel good in the process. And today it was to move your body in a way that felt good. And so I put it up there, and Claire's like, yeah, I'm stretching, and it feels good on my spine and everything. And so I'm stretching out a little bit, and I'm like, I need a little something more. And so I went to the chiropractor, and sometimes I forget. Like, I've gotten so good about like my
preventative wellness.
My preventative wellness, and in some areas I have, and it's like I'll focus on one, and then like I'll be like,
look, I'm doing this. Like,
look at me getting my massages for that, and then forgetting like the other thing that feels really good is the chiropractor. So that nudge actually nudged me to go and do it. That's and awesome. Have somebody else move my body in a way that felt nice.
That's cool.
So,
yeah, you posted that, and it was like, it's so funny as you started talking about the needs nudge. I don't know whether you saw me on the camera. Yeah. I'm like, oh, I'd forgotten about that needs nudge. I like the reminder, and that's the cool thing about those is that you can kind of do them. You can do them whenever you see them, but also you can do them like multiple times a day. Like, it's like, oh, hold on a second, I've already done it once, and I'm gonna do it again. I don't
think I've ever read a nudge because they're very simple things and we try to make them inclusionary. So like, we've talked about before.
Inclusive, I think you mean.
Yeah. I make up words if you haven't noticed that. Claire, after we finish recording, Claire's like, that's not what that means. Like, have I been pronouncing this wrong my entire life?
I don't know. Inclusionary might be a word. I don't know. I'm like checking in. I'm like, I know inclusive is a word. I'm not sure whether, it might be.
It might be.
And if not, now it is.
Yeah. Words by Serena. So
please don't ever play Wordle.
I do, and I'm actually pretty good at it. I'm good at it. Like,
we should do our own Wordle just with made up Serena words.
It's funny. We used to have a long running joke, and we still do, with my husband's close friends. And when he was in the Navy, he used to come up with what we called Joeisms. Mm-hmm. They are just...
Joeisms are good.
Yeah, they're nonsensical words, but there is actually a little bit of sense. He's like, well, it's this and this. And it's like, but that's...
Oh, shit, that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm not using it just out of principle. But we try to make the needs nudges something that anybody can do, no matter where they are. And
by the way, if you see any of the needs nudges and you're like, hold on, that's not inclusive because of this, please do tell us, because we want to update them and change them and make them so that they are as accessible as possible for everybody.
Well, the Move Your Body one started as something...
I think it was like dance or something.
Yeah, and it was something that... whatever it was, you had to be able to get up and, or maybe it was get up and stretch or something like that.
Yeah,
and it's
stand
like,
up and stretch or something.
Just move
in whatever way.
And it's nice. I post them, and like if I see it pop up, I'm like, I'll read it, and it's like, all right, just take a deep, take a moment to take a deep breath. And as I'm doing it, I'm taking the deep breath, and it's like, oh shit, I just did that. Like, and that felt good. So and then you can keep reusing them. And
it's a good thing about sharing the nudges is you get nudged to do it as you're sharing the nudges.
Well, let me walk my talk. Right? So yeah, that was just it. It's always nice when you get nudged by your own work.
Yeah, I get it frequently, especially now I work with Serena. It's like, oh, God damn it, man. All of a sudden she's nudging me with the same thing I've nudged her with before. It's like, well, she's got a point. So today I am so excited about this episode because I have been wanting to do this episode for the longest time. And there was, as we were talking about the people pleasing series, I'm like, oh, that fits into the people pleasing series. Yes, let's do that. So today we are talking about the whole sorry, not sorry thing. Or we're talking about apologies in general, really, is what we're talking about. And the thing about it is that so many of us have been conditioned to apologize for our mere existence.
Somebody body checks you in the middle of the sidewalk. Oops, sorry.
Right.
Sorry, I was walking on
sorry,
my
I was
side.
existing here right now. And like, I mean, and it sounds funny, but like, especially women, like, and it's a big thing with women and also for other marginalized communities as well. There's this kind of sense of like apologizing for our existence, apologizing for our opinions, apologizing for being right about something. Like if you're in like a group, like I cannot tell you the number of times when I used to work in corporate where I'd be in a meeting and somebody would say something and I'd know they were wrong. And I was like, and I'd be like, oh, sorry, actually it's this. I'm like, sorry, what am I apologizing for?
Sorry, you're wrong.
Sorry, your ego is so fragile that if I don't say sorry, you're not going to be able to hear the fact that you're wrong without getting defensive. Or you're probably going to get defensive anyway, but that's really why I'm doing it. I'm trying to prevent myself from having to deal with your bullshit, basically.
How many people I've seen apologize, myself included, for taking up any space at all? Mm-hmm. Like, not just a reasonable amount of space or too much space, but just any space.
Right. Absolutely. It happens all the time. And especially like, I mean, it's there was a woman who did an experiment several years ago, and it does the rounds every now and again. I saw it again recently, where she was doing an experiment about manslamming. Do you know what manslamming is?
It sounds kind of fun.
It's not.
I thought it was like the antidote to mansplaining.
No.
That's where my head went. So,
I like that version of it.
That's why I was like, well,
that sounds fun.
That sounds fun, but it's probably
it's another one of those. So you've got like manspreading, which is where men take up an inordinate amount of space, like especially when they're like sitting on public transport or in like in a public space, and they'll spread their knees as far as
your dick's not that big,
right? And also it's like I mean, I've wanted to do the splits my entire life. I mean, how many men I think are training like without even realizing it to do the splits just from the amount they spread their legs when they sit in a public place.
Oh, maybe the next time on a subway I'll just go full split and be like, oh, this is just what I do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the other ones I saw was bropropriation. Bropropriation, which is where a man will take credit for somebody else's ideas, often a woman's. I'm like, oh shit, I've been there. Like, how many times have I seen that? Well, manslamming is where what ends up happening is that because men tend to be conditioned to believe that they are prioritized, people will defer to them, is that when they are walking, a lot of the time, most men, this is not everyone, but most men will hold course. Yes. Even if somebody is coming towards them, they will not make room for the other person to come through. They expect the other person to just move out of the way. And this woman did this experiment. I think it was in New York as part of her commute. And the idea was that she would just not get out of the way. And the amount of times that she was literally like body checked by a guy because he just expected her to move. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is that there was somebody, I don't know whether it was the same woman or there was a different one who was the same kind of idea, where they were, she would do the same thing on her regular commute. She would just not get out of the way. And sometimes they would like almost like fall on top of her and like stop. But she wouldn't apologize. She'd just look up at them and smile. And that would confuse them even more because they're used to people apologizing for getting in their way as opposed to, and it's like, it's so manslamming is this phenomenon where men don't get out of the way for other people and end up slamming into them.
I've had that happen many times, especially being of a shorter stature. Usually it's an elbow or a shoulder, and it's just like, and the ironic thing is, especially as a woman, we've been conditioned to apologize during those situations. So often I have been body checked by a man, goes about their merry way. Well, I'm just like, are you fucking, oh, there you go. Not even a word. Like,
what?
Like, you not only just ran into me, but then you ran into me with zero acknowledgement of the fact, like,
Zero apology.
Right. Like, that must have felt at least like a speed bump because I have a bruise. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
You can't pretend like you didn't feel that you just did that.
And so often it's like, and again, it's like that apology thing of like, oh, I apologize because you just slammed into me. Or I apologize for asking to take up the space that is my seat on this public transport because you are taking up an inordinate amount of space, which is beyond the boundaries of your space on this thing. So a lot of us have been conditioned to apologize for everything. And a lot of the time what we're doing in that is we are deferring. We're basically saying that the other person's needs or comfort is more important than our needs. So like what a lot of the time, we talked about the value need in the last episode. A lot of the time we're basically saying, I'm less important than you because I need to apologize to you for something that actually there isn't an apology for. And especially when you are apologizing and an apology is not warranted, what you are doing is you are invalidating your needs. You're invalidating your acknowledgement need. A lot of the time you might trigger your emotional experience and expression need because you might be pissed about that because that's something that is you're entitled to be unhappy about. You're often actually compromising your value need because you're saying, actually, I'm not worthy of saying of in this situation where I've done nothing wrong, I'm not worthy of actually holding the other person accountable and that they have to address the situation. I'm going to apologize so that they feel comfortable. So I'm prioritizing their feelings and their needs. And if I'm prioritizing theirs above mine, I'm basically saying that I'm less important and my needs are less important than theirs are. So every time we do this, we're eroding our needs. We are compromising our needs. Now,
and we're feeding that ugly little monster within that person that's like, this is okay to keep doing. And it's okay to do to somebody else too, because chances are they're not going to speak up either.
Exactly. And I mean, this happens so frequently. It's like, I mean, and another example is where if you're speaking and somebody else interrupts you and then you apologize for interrupting them. It's like, hold on a second. I'm apologizing for trying to continue the sentence I was in the middle of when you cut me off. This is something happened a lot in the relationship I referred to when I was told by that friend of mine to stop like compromising everything I am. That's what I would often do is like, I would say something, he would interrupt me because he thought he knew what I was saying. He would be wrong in what he thought I was saying. And then I would apologize to him for correcting his misunderstanding about what he thought I was going to say and the fact that he interrupted me. I'd be like, oh no, sorry, actually what I was going to say is this. And it was so insidious. Like I did it all the time and I didn't realize I was doing it. And I didn't realize the negative impact and how much it would compromise my needs by doing that. Now, the interesting thing is a while ago, many, many years ago, or just many years ago, in some recent years, this term, sorry, not sorry, came out. And it was a way of basically saying, yeah, I'm not actually sorry about it. But this phrase incenses me because we're apologizing for the fact that we are not sorry for the thing that we're not meant to be sorry about in the first place. Like, we're still doing it. Even in the thing where we're saying, I'm not sorry about this, we're apologizing for the fact that we're not sorry about it when we've got nothing to be sorry about in the first place.
Oh, 2000s.
Right?
It's like some of the I mean, we both used it in the
past. Yes.
And it's like thinking about like, all right, let's break this down. Well, shit, it really is that simple. But it's like, oh, shit, like,
we don't even realize we're doing it. We don't even
realize we're doing it, and we're utilizing
like,
the same...
Look, there's progress because we're not sorry. But we don't realize we're doing the exact same thing.
You're almost doubling down.
Right.
You said sorry, and then you apologized for not being sorry. So you've really apologized twice in there.
Right. It's almost like I'm sorry for the fact that I'm not sorry about the thing that I'm not actually there's no reason for me to be sorry about. And so it's like when all of a sudden we started doing this, and it was just like, it was everywhere. And all
Hashtag
sorry, not sorry. And it's like, do you realize what you're doing? And I said, Serena and I, we both used this term. And it was quite some time later that I was doing the needs work, and I was like, oh, fuck. I mean, and that coming from Serena, like, that's a regular day, any hour, any minute, you could drop an oh fuck and that wouldn't be a thing. But this was like a real guttural for me. Oh, fuck. Like,
what do I do every day? Oh, fucks.
Yeah.
Yes. I have lots of fucks to give.
Yes. I had 0 fucks to give, apparently. But no, I mean, it was one of those things where this wasn't just, and we're gonna do another episode at some point in the future about swearing and about how sometimes actually it meets our needs to do that, and it compromises our needs to not do that, because and this is one of those moments where it would have compromised my needs to do this, because that is really, like, I felt that in my guts when I realized I was still apologizing for the fact that I was not in a position where I should be apologizing. I'm like, how did I not see this? How?
Yeah. An example just kind of flew into my head, especially with the social media aspect. And I can see the post, and there's multiple of them. This isn't a one-off situation. Mm-hmm. And it kind of goes along with the feeling cute today type of thing, where all of a sudden it was like, I'm just going to post this because I feel cute. Like, I like the way I look today. I took a selfie, and damn. Yeah. Like, look at me. Yeah. Like, sometimes you want to share that. And it's like, feeling cute today. Sorry, not sorry.
Like,
all the confidence in posting that picture is like almost undermined by the fact that you're not sorry you posted it, but you said it because you don't want to be one of those, like,
it's almost like I'm doing something which our society says I should apologize for. So I'm not going to say sorry, and I'm going to draw attention to the fact that I'm not saying sorry, but I'm going to apologize for the fact that I'm not saying sorry because society thinks I should be saying sorry for this. And we're doing the same freaking thing. Like, it's the same pattern. We're doing exactly the same thing. And this is the whole thing with the whole apology thing, is that society has told us that we should be apologizing for things that we shouldn't be apologizing for. We shouldn't be apologizing as women for having opinions. We shouldn't be apologizing. And I'm giving the example as women because this is something that I have experienced. I've been on the receiving end. This goes for anyone from any marginalized community. We shouldn't apologize for having opinions. We shouldn't apologize for being good at what we do. I remember a situation where I was telling a client about this the other day. I was on a blind date. It was like it was a dating app thing, and so we'd never met before. We went and met for a drink, and I can't actually remember what it was he did. Like, I mean, we're going back a few years now, and we're talking, and I was in the middle of a conversation, just mid sentence. I dropped something into the conversation, and you'd have thought I'd reached over the table and punched him in the face, given how he reacted. So I remember I was like, because I'm one of the best in the world at what I do, and I finished the sentence off. And I looked, I was looking around because we were in a pub garden. So I was like looking around, and I turned back and looked at him, and he was like, utter shock on his face. And I was like, what? And I was trying to, because obviously I'd moved on from that. It was a momentary thing in a larger conversation, in a larger sentence that I was saying. And he was like, you're one of the best in the world at what you do. And I'm like, yeah. But that wasn't the point of what I was saying. What I was saying was this. And he was like, no, hold on a second. You are one of the best in the world at what you do. And I was like, yeah. And in that moment, even though I do this work, I could feel the desire to apologize coming up, because we're not meant to own our value. We're not meant societally to claim our value and our skill and our talent and our gifts and our genius. And it was so funny because I was like, yeah, but that wasn't the point. And I kind of carried on the conversation. And literally, as I continued on the conversation, I watched him shrivel and shrink in front of me. And I realized the reason he took issue with what I said is because The second he knew that I knew my value, all of a sudden he was like, oh God, I'm not good enough for this person. And I was like, if you can't be around me and me own who I am in the world, this is never, I mean, it was one and done in terms of drinks. And at that moment I was like, oh yeah, okay, I can see this. You don't value yourself, and so you have an issue with me valuing myself. This isn't going to work. You're a very nice person, but you're not somebody who's a good fit for me. But it's like societally, we're not meant to own our value. We're not meant to own our opinions. We're not meant to take up space. There is still this hangover from years past of we're not meant to be seen. We're not meant to be heard. We're not meant to have places of prominence. We're not meant to be leaders. There's all of this stuff that societally we are taught we are not meant to be. So the second that we start claiming those spaces and we start from a needs perspective, owning our value and being able to say, not from an egoic place, not for, and the interesting thing is that if somebody else had said that, or if I'd said that at another time in my life, I might have been trying to say it to prove that I was better than everybody else. And that wasn't the context in which it was said at all. It was just, it was a relevant point to the conversation that we were having. And it was something that I didn't even realize I'd said because it was so unimportant to me. But there would have been a point in time where I'd have been saying that, going, I want to impress this guy. I want him to think I'm amazing. So I'm going to say this. And that would have been me trying to get my value need by him seeing me as valuable. And that wasn't the case at all. But so often, as soon as we step into that space, as soon as we step into that space, it could be a space, it could be a place. I mean, I kind of like space. Maybe
it's whatever you want it to be.
Maybe I'm going to have a Claireism rather than a Joeism.
Ooh, I think we're just going to do an entire dictionary.
Right?
A dictionary to follow along on the podcast.
Right? What does they mean? Sorry, what does that one mean? Okay, right, okay, I'm with them. Right, keep going. Okay, wait, what does that word mean? Okay. Oh, right, no. Anyway, but once you start to step into that space, she says, consciously using it this time, of having your needs met, of recognizing your value, not from a place of I need to be valuable and you need to be deviant. And I think that's what a lot of fear around this is that people who have been systemically devalued for years, i.e. seen as inferior to other people, so women to men or non-binary or people who do not identify as men to men, that the fear in the people with privilege is that they're going to be treated the way that they've treated others. And I mean that in terms of like the way the system is treated. I'm not saying everybody individually, but everybody has been complicit in this system, which has created this hierarchy and this value/devalue thing. And the fear is that actually what's going to happen is it's going to go the other direction, which is that we're superior to you. We're more important than you. We're more valuable than you. And that's not the case at all. It's not about value in relation to, because if you feel valuable in relation to somebody else, you're still disempowered because you need that person to be down here in order to feel good about yourself up here. I know my value irrespective of who I'm speaking to. I don't care if I'm speaking to a like master of business, like CEO of one of the biggest things in the world, or somebody who darns socks down the street. I don't know what darn socks came from, but hey.
Oh darn!
That's darning is where you fix the holes.
Socks.
No, you fix holes in socks. So it's the mechanism that you use for fixing socks. I have no idea where that came from. But
when's the last time you had your socks done?
I don't think I've ever had my socks done.
I feel like you have to go somewhere old world for that, or you have like a cobbler and a sock. What's
really funny is that, like, okay, we're going slightly on a tangent for a second. Is that while I may not darn my socks recently, actually Serena and I were talking about this just the other day, and I was saying about the fact that I still have clothes that I fix. In that if they've got a hole in them, I'll mend them. I actually got a new dress through the post, which was broken when I got it. It was just like a strap that wasn't attached properly, and I was like, oh, that's fine. I can get. I got a refund on it because it was broken, like it wasn't what I'd ordered. And I fixed it so that I could wear it myself. And I said to Serena, I was like, I wonder if we might be the last generation that fixes clothes. Like, that's something I do. Like, if I've got something that I love, I will repair it.
Yeah, if I have a little hole in something, I'm like, okay, now there's no hole. And then I wait for it to rip again. And then I'm like, all right, I'm going to fix that little hole.
I don't know whether the generations after us do that, will do that. I mean, I think there's an element of a sustainability thing that, depending on where you sit on that, people may do that from a environmental standpoint. I don't know, but it's just, I was
Do they even teach home ec anymore
I don't know.
School?
It's probably,
like, I learned how to sew my first, the greater learning experience. I've known how to sew since I was very, very little. But like, I learned like the principles of sewing in school, and I don't hear about those types of classes anymore. So you might be right. Like,
I don't know. Well,
we might be the lax fix-it generation.
I think I learned in like brownies and guides, which is like the girl guides over here. I think that I remember I had a badge. Oh, you have brownies as well?
Yeah, we had Girl Scouts, brownies. They're all like different.
But that was one of the badges you could earn, and that's one of the, I think that's, I mean, same as you, like my mum sewed, so like we did it with her. But anyway,
mine wasn't an option. She's like, you want this sewn, you're gonna learn how to hem your pants. I'd be like, all right,
okay,
now I hem everybody's pants.
Right, absolutely. I was like, I don't have a sewing machine here, so I was like, can you fix my bag for me, please?
I'll go back to New England, and Melissa will have like, it's actually more her husband now, has a pile of things that need to be fixed, and they can do it, but it's like, I know she's coming. Yeah. Can you sew these?
Yeah, I can sew these. So anyway, the point was, it doesn't matter who I'm speaking to. I'll own my value just as much, because the thing is that I own my value. I also recognize the value in everybody else. And I don't need them to be down in order for me to be up. And that's the thing, is that once you recognize that value and when you own that value, that's something that we've been taught not to do. And so there's this element of it feels like we're going against it feels we are going against the social grain by owning these things and by being quote unquote successful and by taking on roles and jobs that we were not perceived as being for people like us. And so that's the reason that in those situations, and even that, like the example that Serena gave about like posting a cute picture, like there's this element of like, well, that's vain. Like that you shouldn't see yourself as pretty or good looking. Like, why the fuck not? Like that is like being able to see the beauty in yourself, whether that is physically, whether that's emotionally, whether that's in terms of how you show up in the world. That is part of owning your value, and that's part of meeting your value need. So I know that for me,
I want to comment on something before we move too far away. Claire had mentioned on the date, mentioning, I'm the best in the world at what I do.
One of the best in the world.
I'm gonna say Claire is the best in the world. I'm gonna do that.
Okay, I'm okay with that. I'm like, I don't know all the people in the world, so that's why I never say that, because I never know if there's somebody else doing it. I'm always like, I'm one of the best in the world. That's the reason that I frame it like that.
From what I've experienced,
I'll take that.
And I remember the first time she said it, and at this point, didn't know what needs were besides the general conversations we've had.
And by the way, this is not something I say all the time.
No.
I must have said it maybe twice to you in all the time that we've been, if that.
Yeah, I mean, it was like the first time you were talking about what you did, and of course it was the foreign concept to me. I'm like, needs what, and and it wasn't a superiority thing.
I'm going to catch myself here as well, and I'm like, I've just noticed that what I did there, you see what I did there? That was another pattern of the same thing of like, if people think that I say this all the time, they're going to have a perception of me. And part of the people pleasing, that's why I say like this pattern still exists within us. It's like, I need to let people know that's not what I do all the time. Even if I did do it all the time, it wouldn't be an issue, because it's true. And if I'm only saying it because it's relevant to what I'm sharing in a conversation. But it's interesting how even that, I just caught myself. I'm like, oh, that's the reason I've done that, because I'm trying to make sure that the people watching this aren't going to see, oh God, she's so arrogant, she's so conceited. It's like, actually, no, I own my value, but I felt the need to say that in order that's what I mean. This stuff is deep, and we've been conditioned into it for a long time. So I will catch myself doing it at times as well. Sorry, carry on.
So when I first heard it, I'm like, kind of the same thing. I'm like, who the fuck does this chick think she is? But there was a different energy around it. So, I mean, I'm here right now. So obviously it didn't deter me at all. And I realized that her seeing her worth meant she saw my worth. And it wasn't about being better than. It's like, oh, let's get you, like, you can be up here too.
Well, let's get you seeing you where you actually are, which is just as worthy as I am.
And now I see my worth, and I tend to see the worth in people before they see the worth in themselves and their value. And it's really kind of a profound process when you think about it, because we talk about, and I'm almost positive we've done an episode on the forest.
Yes, we have definitely done an episode.
We'll throw whichever one that is in the show
notes.
The
Universal Needs Ecosystem. I think it was in the Self First series that we did it, but we'll put it in the show notes.
It's kind of that mentality. It's like, okay, make your tree green, and then it spreads to the areas around you.
Yeah.
Very simplified version of the forest right there. But it really does start, I talk about, especially in my journey, how me learning how that I had needs, how to meet them, has kind of spread to the people in my closest circles without them even really doing the program or the work, because it's making them a little bit more green. And then they see, wait, I'm valuable, and I'm valuable because I know I'm valuable. Wait, that person's valuable too because they're valuable because they're
valuable.
Yeah,
because they're human, because they exist.
Yeah, and it's really just kind of interesting to, sometimes these things just come as we're speaking.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, like that's pretty cool. Another place that I want to mention before I forget it, what really just is so, I mean, it kind of hurts my heart that this happens, and I know that I do it still, is we've talked about, like, you're not supposed to take up space, all the things that we're taught we're not supposed to be or not supposed to have or aren't worthy of, or all the things society has conditioned us to. When it comes to social justice, people say, like, having somebody come at you with some sort of bullshit that has no basis in reality, in the person who knows something being like, I'm sorry, but. Yeah. And apologizing for the fact that, A, they've probably been impacted in some way. And depending on where they are within, like, if they're part of the marginalization that's being spoken of, or, even just as white women, us standing up to inaccurate information.
You know what's really funny is that we're going to carry on going. Let's keep going. Okay. Is that I think that was a delivery. Was it? I think that they put just something down on the thing. They never ever knock on my door when they deliver, ever, and it really irritates me. And of course, it's the one time that we're doing a podcast that, hey, knock knock. You were saying.
Yes.
I think, do you mind if I jump in?
Yeah, you probably have the thought better than I do at this point.
The thing about it is that when it comes to addressing and just naming the situations that happen in terms of this systemic oppression and systemic privilege, is that part of this, and I'm gonna this is a slightly different one. There's a bit of nuance to this. Well, there's a lot of nuance to this, but I'm just going to share about some of the nuance around it. Is that so often what will end up happening is that when somebody acts from their privilege, the person who has been impacted by that, if they are going to address it with the other person, and I can speak about this from where, being a woman, I've had men behave a certain way to me and I've called it out, is that sometimes the apology is trying to minimize the impact of the backlash you're going to get from calling them out on their privilege. Because fragility, we don't use the word fragility, we use another term when we're talking about it within the needs context, but it is potent. Like, our privilege has taught us that we are to be deferred to, that our comfort and our experience is to be centered and prioritized. And the second, even just naming that you've done something not okay, is bucking that dynamic, and it is shifting it. And so often, one, the sorry is part of that conditioning around, I'm less valuable, therefore I have to apologize for having this perspective, having this opinion, for knowing more about this than you do. Which, if you've ever if you've ever done any research on standpoint theory is an interesting thing, because most of the time in our society, the perception is that the person with the most privilege and the most, therefore, traditional education actually knows the most about situations. When it comes to a lot of situations, especially those involving marginalization and social justice and systemic oppression, because by its very nature, privilege keeps us hidden. It keeps the dynamics hidden from us. Like, as in, these are the things that sit in our blind spots that we have to learn to look for, because otherwise we do not see them. They are not hidden to the people who have less privilege and the people who are marginalized in these situations. So actually, the least privileged actually understand the situation way better than any of the privileged people do. So, like, it's actually logically untrue that this person would know more, but just naming that, even though it's actually true that I would know more about this, just owning the fact that I know more about this and bringing that to your attention, calling that out that I know more about this, that immediately bucks that trend. So there's that conditioned, I need to apologize for this. But there's a second layer to it, which is often the sorry might be a way of trying to stay safe in that context. I know that I have had times where I've questioned how safe I'm going to be when I name something to a man who is behaving from his privilege ignorantly, doesn't realize he's doing it, but he's still behaving from that way and having an impact on me. Is that just naming that? Sometimes my apology is that's a deliberate. It's not. I don't believe I need to apologize, or that is a deliberate, strategic approach to try to minimize the backlash of the fragility that I'm going to get from even speaking it. So there are some times when sorry is not something we should ever, in those situations, sorry is never something that we should have to say. And sometimes we can consciously, mindfully use it as a way to try to increase our safety in those situations. So we're not talking about those situations. We're talking about these situations where we don't need to stay safe within it. We're saying sorry because we are conditioned into saying we're sorry, and we're actually trying to buck this trend. Does that kind of cover what you were saying?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for regathering the thought. I saw the UPS guy. I'm like, do I have packages? This isn't even my house.
No, I have packages. I knew I had packages coming today. So, one of the things I think that in order to start to change this, and this is something that I have personally started to do, and it feels really good, I have to say, when I start doing this, is that I will often in those situations say, just not sorry. Mm-hmm. Just not sorry at all. I'm not, and this kind of gets expanded out to not even sorry, one of my favorite ones. Can't even pretend to be sorry. I can't even pretend that I'm sorry about this, because I'm not, because this is not something that I need to be sorry about. This is me owning my value. And it's interesting, kind of going back to the example that Serena was talking about earlier, in terms of when I've mentioned where my skill set is in what I do. I remember having a client many, many years ago, a potential client who was interested in working with me. And because of my skill set and what I do, if you're somebody who's interested in working with me one-to-one, my prices are higher than your average person in this field, because my skill set is more developed than the average person in this field. I'm not saying that there aren't other people who are just as skilled as I am. I just know that that's where my value lies. And it was interesting. I remember telling her what it would cost to work with me one-on-one. And just so you know, that's part of the reason that we are doing the podcast series we're working on, and we may actually already have launched by the time this goes live, I'm not sure yet, the home study version of the program, which will be available on a sliding scale payment system. So we want to make this work accessible. We're not saying, it's only for the privileged people who can afford to work with me. We want to find lots of ways of making this accessible, she says, by hitting the sound shield. So that's the reason we have the podcast. It's the reason we have the Facebook group. It's the reason that we have the Universal Needs page and we share the stuff through the different social media channels. It's the reason we're working on the home study program, because we want to make this available and accessible to as many people as possible. And if you're going to work with me one-on-one, then you get all of my research, you get all of my years of experience, and so there is a premium for that. And the interesting thing is, I remember this potential client saying to me, like, can I ask you a really odd question? She said, please don't take offense at this. And I was like, I probably won't, but okay. And she said, how do you justify charging that? And I was like, it's really interesting because I've done the program that we're talking about right now, because there was a time when I didn't feel comfortable charging what I do. And the reason was because I didn't own my value yet. And I know the value that I bring, and I know how profoundly transformative the work is, but how profoundly transformative going through the process with me. It's what I've had fed back to me over and over and over again.
I've done both. She's not lying. And that's not just because it's my business. Right. Like it's taking this amazing knowledge and then having somebody apply it to exactly what's happening in your life at exactly that moment. I mean,
and translate it to your life and your experiences.
And beyond it being transformational, it's pretty fucking cool. Like, to be like, oh, do you know me better than I know me? Like,
and that's, I mean, I get that a lot, where a lot of people, where it's like, I'll say, what I'm guessing, and anyone who's worked with me one-on-one will know I'll never be the person who says, I don't think I ever, I try to never do this, which is this is what's going on for you.
Like matter of fact.
Yeah, it's like, this is what's happening. Normally I'll go, what I'm guessing from what you're hearing is, from what I'm hearing is, I think this is what might be going on. Like, correct me if I'm wrong. And I'm like, I'm totally open to someone going, actually, that's bollocks, Claire. And I'm like, okay. In which case there's another, like, we look at the needs lens, because there's not one way of looking at the needs lens, because there's 12 needs. And they, like, depending on which one is firing and which one is most unmet and which one's a priority at that point in time, it could change how it seems. And so I'll go, this is what I think is most likely. And it almost without exception, the consistent response is, well, shit, yeah, that's exactly what's going on. Or I'll say something and people are like, oh my God, how nobody's ever explained it to me. That makes so much sense. Like, that's the thing that I get over and over again. So it's like not only do you get the content explained and translated into your life, you get somebody who, when you're doing something and you're not even aware why you're doing it, because subconsciously your needs are pulling the strings, and I can look at it and go, just checking, this seems like this could be going on right now. And oh shit, yeah, I didn't even see that. And that's one of the benefits of working with me. I don't know anybody else in the world who can do that. Well, I certainly don't know anyone else in the world who can do that with this work, because I don't believe that anyone else is doing this work. Because if they're using this work, then you need to be having a conversation with us, because it's our work. Just saying. But certainly to be able to do that with the level of nuance that I have acquired over the time that I've done this. So when I said this to her, I was like, it's because I own my value. And I was like, and the thing about it with me is, like, there's never any pressure to work with me. And I never sell to anybody. I'll say, let's have a discovery session. And in that discovery session, I understand more about your situation. I'll bring the needs lens to it and be like, here's the thing. Here's the first steps that I think would be good for you to work with. Here's how I might be able to help. Here's what the options are for working with me. If you want to work with me, great. If you don't want to work with me, great. Like, there is really no pressure either way, because I only want to be working with people who it feels like a fit to work with me. Because if it doesn't feel like a fit, chances are it's probably not going to work so well. And if it doesn't work so well, it's not going to be good for either of us. It's quite honestly a pain in the ass working with somebody who isn't a good fit to work with you. I did it when I first started. I took on clients because I need the money. I need to take clients on. And now it's like, no, if it doesn't feel right, I'm not going to do it, because I think there's somebody out there who will be a better fit for you to work with. And I want to work with people who really feel like they're jiving with me, and that this is a good fit. And I want you to get the help that you need. It may not be me, and that's okay. It's like, whatever that is, let's help get you to that point. But it's so interesting how a lot of the time, how people approach, especially women entrepreneurs, even telling people what their rates are, while they may not say an explicit sorry, how they present the information is like an apology all of itself, where it's like, so what I charge is this. And you're like, you can almost hear the apology in the tone and in the body language. It's like, well, this is kind of what I charge, sort of thing. And it really is. You can see the apology, rather than saying, this is what I charge, and I understand it's not a fit for everybody. And if it is a fit for you, great. And if it's not a fit for you, great. And there's all these other ways that you can get access to this work. So you don't need to work with me one-on-one. Most people choose, if they can, they definitely go for that option, because they know that they're going to get further so much faster, and they're going to get a more deeply profound transformation than they will if they're doing it on their own. But if that doesn't fit for you, there's other ways of accessing this work.
And also, like, you're talking about entrepreneurs and people who run their own business, about what they charge and that kind of thing. I remember an area that it really...
I can think, I know where you're going with this, and I'm like, yep, that too.
When you're working for somebody and asking for what you need, what you deserve, what you should have been getting probably all along.
Well, like, first of all, asking for the salary that you are worthy of when you first take on a job, but then, like, in terms of promotions, in terms of bonuses, in terms of pay rises,
a lot of times, and I worked in HR, so I saw this daily, and people were coming in and being like, I'm sorry, but I need to ask for a raise or something. Like, they preface. Now I don't know what word it's supposed to be. Preface. That was the word that she said. Do you know what you're saying? And I'm like, no, it's a P word, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times people would come in, myself being one of those people for the longest time, that would apologize for the fact that I realized I'm more valuable than they thought I was.
Well, and the other thing is, especially on this island, like, the cost of living on this island is high.
Astronomical.
Unbelievably high. And how many people would apologize for needing a certain pay rate to exist here, to survive here?
Yes.
And it's like, oh, I'm really sorry. I need this in order to pay rent.
Right. I'm sorry, I need more money because I can't live here and work for this company without it. And then sometimes, luckily, I wasn't witness to this within my own company, but I've witnessed it on this island. I've witnessed it on the mainland and everywhere in between, pretty much. I lost where I was going. Wow, that was quick.
Cost of living, asking for what you need.
It's like literally saying, I can't survive. I'm sorry, I can't survive with this or without this.
Right.
I'm sorry, corporate one, that I have to inconvenience you with my living
expenses is an inconvenience to you.
Right.
Like, what? No, that's when you're working for a company that is not appropriately valuing you and making sure that working for them is not coming at the cost of your foundation function needs. Because it's not okay that a company is profiting off of people who cannot afford to live in that area for working for them.
And they are profiting off those
absolutely.
people.
And this happens all the time. And this is a really interesting example because I've literally watched Serena go through this journey, having gone through the needs work, having done the deep dive with me. And there was some stuff. I mean, value need was a big thing for you, right?
Oh, yeah. It was
huge.
It was screaming by the time I started doing this work.
And I remember the conversations that Serena would be having around her pay and her job title and bonuses and the promotions and all that sort of stuff, pay rises, before she did the work. And it was like, like I kind of need to ask for this. Like, sorry, like, but I kind of need this.
And even like for quite a while, I've known like I am a valuable asset to the companies I work for. I didn't identify with it quite as internally and rooted, but I would still feel like they were doing me a favor.
So I'm going to pause you right there. Do you know, like, are you aware of what it was that was creating that? That still feeling like they were doing you a favor, even though you saw your value?
Because it was like surface layer value. I wasn't truly...
Even more so than that.
Do tell.
So this is very, very common. And that's the reason I've kind of jumped in here is that, so Serena knew she was a valuable asset, but she was putting more stock in how the company valued her than she was in how she valued herself. So she was perceiving her value a little bit from how she saw it, which is like, I'm good at what I do and I'm being, but actually the thing that was affecting how she was feeling in terms of her value more so than anything was how she thought the company was valuing her. And because the company wasn't valuing her appropriately, that was really where she was resting in terms of her value need, even though there was a part of her going, but hold, no, you're good at what you do. Like you're an asset to this company. But in terms of how you were interpreting it, the weight you were giving to your perception of your value versus the weight you were giving to the companies or your bosses or your managers' perception of how you value was out of kilter. True?
Her kilters are very close to each other. I would say they were definitely.
It's because I paused. I was like, I was doing this, and I kind of paused somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, and I thought I knew what value really was, and I didn't at the time, and I thought that I had it for myself.
Until we do the needs work.
Yeah, I thought I had true rooted value in myself, and like I said, it was surface because I was still prioritizing somebody else's view of my value instead of my own.
And also I think your perception of your own value was very surface level. Like it was something that you knew as an and we often talk about this. We're going to do a podcast coming up on this, which is like the difference between knowing your needs and knowing your needs. And if you are watching on the audio, I was pointing to my head first and then kind of my body and my heart second. There's a difference between intellectually knowing, like from a mind perspective, yes, this is what my value is. And there's a difference between knowing it and feeling it and really knowing it in your body. And I think that your perception of your value at that time was very much a mental, I can logically see why I'm valuable to this company. I don't really fully feel it yet.
Yep.
So, and the reason I feel okay to do this with Serena on the podcast is because we've done this a lot. This is part of how our interactions sometimes go.
Yes.
And I also think there's probably a lot of people listening who will be able to relate to what it is where Serena was. Now, the interesting thing is I've also witnessed Serena go to the other side of it. And I got to say, it was fucking awesome. Like watching her go to the other side of this, where she knew like she felt it in every cell of her being.
This is what's going to happen.
Right.
I'm going to get this. We're going to do this. And this is how it will be.
This is what I need. And I have no hesitation whatsoever in asking for it because I know you need me and I know this is what I need to get this job done and this is what I'm worthy of.
Mm-hmm. It was almost like any time after that, once I knew my value from within, it was like any time I said something that before would have been like an apology, a sorry, or like was now like just a mic drop. It was just like, boom.
This is what I need. And the interesting thing was, it wasn't, again, very important to be clear on this, is that so often in these corporate environments, what can end up happening is initially the power can seem like it is in the corporation or the bosses or the manager's hands and that we feel are disempowered. This is not about flipping that and going, well, I've got more power than you do, so I'm going to force you to do what I need. This is about me knowing my value, and the personal power is I'm going to choose to ask for this, and I'm going to choose to ask for it in a way that is matter of fact. And I also know the choice that I will make if this doesn't work. This isn't the right place to work for me. I'm going to find something else that does resonate with me.
And that's really important to note because, you know, the energy of it may be matter of fact and mic drop. And that's just kind of the like internal energy, but it was always done in a professional way. There was
a respectful way of everyone involved.
And there was the continuation of what the plan was, I guess. So I wouldn't go into these situations not knowing that what my other needs that were going to pop up maybe, or, you know, if they were like, no, we're not doing that. It's like, actually, I've decided this is what I need to continue this job. So if I can't get that, then I'm going to have to start looking somewhere else. And
again, not from I'm trying to use this to have power over you, to get leverage, to get you to do what I want. It's like, that's just the reality of the situation. There's a neutrality around I understand if you, and that's actually, I remember we had conversations where I was that, because what can end up happening is we do this pendulum swing when it feels like they've had all the power, like, and it's like all of a sudden we've got our value. It's like, oh shit, I've got the power now. I'm going to be able to like, I'm going to crowbar these people into doing what I want to do. And I remember having the conversation with Serena. It's like, actually, you want to get to this neutral place of recognizing that the power is inside of you to make choice around this. So you can be like, I understand if that's not something you can do. This is what I need. So if that doesn't fit for you, then I'm going to need to start looking for something else. Like there was or even, and sometimes it wasn't even like I'm going to tell you I'm looking for something else. I'm just going to need to look for something else for my own well-being. And then I'm going to communicate as I leave, this is the reason, like this just didn't fit for me anymore. And maybe it will fit for the next person. If so, great. But that's the reason I'm leaving. So I want you to know that it's important that you take care of your staff's needs, because it was you not taking care of my needs that are the reason I left. So I think that, this is so prevalent in our society. This is so prevalent in our culture that it is something that is going to start to take a time to shift. The first thing, the most important thing in this, in order to start to shift this, is to start to meet your value need and recognize your value for yourself, because you exist, and that you are worthy of having your needs met because you exist. So you are worthy of working in such a way that you can afford to live where you are working without suffering or struggling. Like that is something you are worthy of, which is why you will often hear us talking about the need for the minimum living wage, not minimum national wage, the minimum living wage, which will vary from place to place according to what is necessary. Now that doesn't mean to say companies, if you're living in an area that's not super expensive, that you get to devalue your employees and pay them much less. It's about making sure that there is a baseline minimum that everybody is getting, and if you need more than that in order to be able to work where you are working, that the companies that you are working for need to be providing that and need to be supporting your needs. As I said, this is incredibly so the first thing you need to be doing is taking care of your needs, and especially your value need, and recognizing that you are worthy of this. You are worthy of this. You're also worthy of opinions. You're also worthy of taking up space. You're also worthy of being right. You're also worthy of claiming your gifts. You're worthy of taking a selfie if you want to take a selfie. Like all of these things you are worthy of, and it doesn't matter whether somebody else believes you're worthy of it or not in order for you to be worthy of them. The second thing I suggest with this is to stop with the apologies when there is no apology necessary. And if you feel that urge to come out, because we're in such a habit now of, oh, sorry, not sorry, is just not sorry. Can't even pretend to be sorry.
Something that I do, and actually I've noticed my husband has started doing it too, trying to get out of this sorry, not sorry conditioning. I'll start to say something and I'll be like, oh, I'm sorry. And then I'm like, actually, you know what? I'm not sorry.
Yeah.
And I correct myself in front of that person. And it happened the other night. And my husband said something. He's like, yeah, sorry. It wasn't like an apology to me. It was just like a general, I'm sorry I did this. And he's like, wait, I'm not sorry about that. And I was like, good. And it was, it took a while for me to even get to that point where I'd call myself on being not sorry. And it's like, I'd start with saying it and then it'd be like, oh, I wasn't sorry. Like, okay, I'll
remember for next time.
And then it's like, no, I want them to know, like, I'm actually not sorry, so I can say...
And I'm also claiming it for myself.
Yes.
That I've said it, and now for myself, I need to unsay that and say, oh, I said sorry. Actually, no, I'm not sorry. And I'm going to own the fact that I'm not sorry, because that will affect how I feel about myself and my needs as well.
Yes, and that's the difference between sorry, not sorry, and sorry... Actually,
no,
I'm not
sorry. Yes. Because one is I'm apologizing for not apologizing. The other is I'm not apologizing for the fact that I'm not sorry and I misspoke to begin with.
Yes. I'm sorry for my conditioning.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm not sorry for my conditioning, because my conditioning was not my fault. That is not something for me to be sorry for. My conditioning was messed up. It is messed up that I was conditioned into this way of doing things. So right, I'm not sorry for bucking the trend. I'm not sorry for saying something different. And actually, I think those people who put that conditioning in me, they're the ones that need to be accountable, and they are the ones that need to be sorry.
Mic drop. Boom.
Yeah, you can tell this is something I'm passionate about. I got a little bit more... intense around this subject matter. But this is how important this is, because I see this with so many people. And it's really important that every time we do this, we're actually confirming and we're reaffirming that conditioning. We're like doubling down on it in our own minds and in our own feelings about what we should and shouldn't be doing. So every Every time that we say just not sorry, can't even pretend to be sorry, or sorry, oh wait, hold on a second, no, I'm not sorry for that. Anytime that we do that, it's a small act of resistance against this conditioning that we have had. And it is an act of resistance which actually stems the flow of our needs being compromised and boosts our needs at the same time. So these little moments are the moments where we begin to take back our power, and we begin to take back the nourishment of our needs, which has been compromised by the conditioning that we weren't even aware that we were getting. Anything you want to add before we finish up?
I'm good.
So thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Please do let us know. We are so excited to share our third and final episode in the People Pleasing series next time. Between now and then, take care, apparently. Take care, stay safe, and remember to continue to meet your own needs. Lots of love. Bye.
Bye, friends.
Okay, this is not becoming a pattern, I promise. Well, it might be becoming
a
pattern, in which case,
it kind of seems like
it is becoming a pattern. So we just finished recording, and then Serena said something to me. I'm like, oh crap, I should have said something about that. So what did you say? Do you remember what you just said to me a moment ago? No. So what Serena said to me was like, she said, I'm really glad I made that comment, because you getting like all like, oh no, da, 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 da. It's really important to recognize that when this conditioning comes up, that we have valid feelings about it, and it is okay to feel our feelings, and it is okay to process our feelings. It's okay that we're angry about this. It's okay that we have this justified rage for the fact that we've been conditioned into compromising our needs for other people's comfort for generations and generations and generations. So yes, it is okay to get passionate about things. Yes, it's okay to get intense about things. It is okay to get angry about things, as long as we process the anger and use it as fuel for constructive change in order to move things in the way that we want. So I just wanted to, because when Serena said that, I'm like, oh, we didn't actually address that when these things come up, it's okay to be, to get angry about it.
To have feelings about
it. And to acknowledge those feelings and be like, actually, yeah, I am angry, because it's not okay that this has happened to us. It's not okay that we've been conditioned into continuing to condition ourselves that we need to be apologizing for this bullshit, because we don't. So it's really important to recognize that in the same way as I got a little intense in that episode as we were talking about this, I didn't do so at anybody else's detriment. I wasn't doing that, and my intensity wasn't compromising somebody else's needs. However, there is other anger around this, and there has been in the past, and I go and process that in a way I'm like, you know what? I'm going to dance this out right now, because this is something I'm frustrated by, and I want to feel that, and I want to get it out of my system. It's important to process that and acknowledge that those feelings and emotions are valid as a part of what we've experienced.
Just as long as you're managing them in a self-first perspective, where you're not
processing them. I think it's really important to talk about processing rather than managing. Sounds like I'm looking at top and I'm controlling everything, whereas processing is actually going through the process of healing them. But carry on.
Doing it in a self-first way that does not harm others. So like Claire said, she might get, intense or passionate about something. And if she needs to process it, she takes a step back and does it on her own.
Does it where I'm somewhere else, I'm not going to affect anyone else.
Or if it's with me, she knows, in relationships like this, she knows she can have an intense moment with me.
And I'll often hold her to hold space for that intense moment. I'm like, hey, could you hold space?
Yes. Like, I'm going to have a moment.
Go right ahead.
But those were important things that we didn't really feel right leaving on the note, without mentioning it. So.
Absolutely. So thank you for being here. Thank you for staying for this extra little bit. We will see you soon. And remember, between now and next time, to continue to meet your own needs. Lots of love. Bye.
Bye again, friends.
That's it for today.
If you like what you heard, please subscribe, rate, and give us a written review,
as it will help more people find us. And remember, apologizing for things that you have no right to be sorry for actually compromises your needs. It's okay to say, I'm just not sorry.
Well, shit. It really is that simple.